Hello, good morning friends. Welcome back to your favorite channel Code One Digest. Today in this tutorial we will learn about how to deploy our Spring Boot API into AWS App Runner service. We will learn what is App Runner service and how to deploy our Spring Boot API application into App Runner service. We'll understand how it is different from running it into a Fargate. If you want to learn AWS App Runner service, then this is a tutorial for you. I'll teach you step by step how to create a Spring Boot project, then how to set up AWS App Runner service, and how to deploy our application and test our application running into AWS App Runner service. So watch this video till end. It is going to be very exciting and very informative tutorial today. Okay friends. So here is the agenda of this tutorial today. I'll give introduction of AWS App Runner service. Then I'll explain you what are we trying to achieve in this tutorial today through an architecture diagram. Then I'll show you how to set up, how to create a Spring Boot API project. It's a simple API project. If you already have a project, you can use that. Otherwise, refer this project. I will also give you the GitHub repository reference so that you can download the project and use it for your reference. Then I'll show you how to set up App Runner service, what all inputs and configuration required to set it up. Finally, we'll deploy our Spring Boot project into App Runner, how to run our Spring Boot API project into App Runner, and then finally, how to test those endpoints running into AWS App Runner service. Okay, friends? Okay, friends. So here is the architecture diagram. What are we trying to achieve? Let me explain that because I believe one picture tells more than 1,000 words. So here is the diagram. So this is me as a user or a developer. I am writing a code of Spring Boot API in my local machine, and then once the coding is done and tested in local, then I'll be pushing that code into my GitHub repository. I'll be setting up App Runner service in AWS cloud. Once that is done, then I'll be deploying the code from my GitHub repository into that service and will run the application here in AWS App Runner service. And once that is done, then we'll be testing our API from internet. We'll be hitting those API and see if we are getting the response, right? Very simple application, simple architecture. All right, friends. I hope this is clear with you. If you have any query or doubt, please put that in a comment section. I'll clarify your query. Friends, before we proceed in this video, I request you to subscribe this channel to grow Code One Digest family. Friends, I am creating a lot of quality videos on programming, coding concepts, design pattern and design principles, cloud and container technologies, but I'm not getting subscribers. I request you to like, share and subscribe this channel so that I can grow our Code One Digest family. Thank you.
All right, let's get started.
Okay friends, so here is my Spring Boot microservice project. Very simple project. It is having one hello world controller, right? In this hello controller, I'm having this endpoint slash, and as soon as I hit the slash, it is going to return me a message that hello world, right? So this is a very simple Spring Boot project. You can also write the simple Spring Boot project, or you can use the same project. I'll give you the link of my GitHub repository. You can download this project and use it for your testing. Right, friends? Let me run this and see if this works fine. So starting up the Spring Boot project, it just have one endpoint slash. Now what I'll do is I'll open the browser and will test the endpoint. Okay, so let me hit that localhost 8080. My server is running on 8080 and slash. That's all, right? So see, I'm getting the hello world string. That means our API, single API is working fine. That is what we have written here to return hello world. Okay friends, so now what I'll do is now I'll upload this project into my GitHub repository and we'll use that as a source for our AWS App Runner service. So if you see here, I have uploaded all this code into my GitHub repository and that is now available here in Spring Hello World API project, right? So it is available, and this is my repository Code One Digest, and this is a project Spring Hello World API. I am going to use this repository in my AWS App Runner service, and I also give you the reference of this GitHub repository so that you can use it, right? Now, next step is let's set up our AWS App Runner service, and we'll deploy this code from this repository into our App Runner service. Okay, friends. Okay, friends. Now let me explain you what is AWS App Runner service. You would have heard about Fargate service. You would have heard about ECS service, Elastic Container Service. Why do we use Fargate? Okay, the purpose of using Fargate is because it is serverless architecture. We need not to manage the infrastructure. If your traffic increases, if your load increases or decreases, then you don't have to upscale or downscale your systems. Or there is a security patch, then you need not to worry about updating your infra or operating system or security patches. So for that reason, we prefer to go for Fargate serverless architecture, serverless service. Now, traditionally, for any web application or microservices, we tend to use EC2 instance if it is a normal web application. But if it's a containerized application, if you have built your application based on Docker containers, then we used to prefer AWS ECS service, that is Elastic Container Service. And in Elastic Container Service, what we do? In Elastic Container Service, we create task definition first, then we create containers, and then we run this setup into our Fargate. Fargate is serverless compute service so that you don't have to worry about a scaling up or scaling down or any upgrade required at infrastructure level. That all be managed by AWS vendor. Hence, we prefer to go for serverless service. Now, what AWS has done 2 years ago, they have launched this new service. They call it AWS App Runner service. This App Runner service is basically to deploy and run any web application or microservices or API. Like we use Fargate, we can use App Runner service as well. Now, what is the advantage of using App Runner on top of Fargate? This is debatable, but in general, if your application is not load intensive, if it is medium to low traffic for your application, then go for App Runner service. But if you have lot and lot of traffic, every second you're getting hundreds and thousands of requests, then go for Fargate service. There are a lot of information available on internet. You can search the difference between App Runner service and Fargate and when to use it. They will explain you in details. But the crux is for low to medium type of traffic, go for App Runner service where you get few requests every second or few requests every minute. Okay, a few hundred requests in a day. Okay, for that you don't have to go for Fargate. Use App Runner, it will be cheaper and economic. But if you have thousands of requests coming every second, you have lot and lot of requests coming in every second, then go for Fargate. Fargate is also a serverless compute engine. App Runner is also based on serverless architecture. But when we go for ECS plus Fargate combination, in that we have to do a lot of manual configuration. Like you have to create task definition, then you have to set up containers, then you deploy it in a Fargate, and it's a lengthy process, right? AWS has made it simple in form of a package. That is why they have launched this App Runner service. In 5 minutes, in easy steps, you will be able to run web application and API in serverless infrastructure. That is App Runner. So in App Runner, you don't have to worry about task definition. You don't have to create container yourself. All of that will be taken care automatically. These days, App Runner is getting more and more popular wherever we have web application and microservices, low traffic microservices to deploy because it requires very less configuration, easy to set up, easy to scale, easy to manage. Fargate is also a preferred choice, but that is little complicated, lengthier to set up, and little difficult to manage. Okay friends, I hope this is clear. This is the home page of AWS App Runner service. You can go and visit this page on AWS site. All the information is given, how it works, in which scenario we should use. AWS App Runner service is fully managed application service that lets you build, deploy, and run web application API services without prior infrastructure or container experience. So here we don't need any container or infrastructure experience. So one advantage with this service on top of Fargate and basic difference between the App Runner and Fargate is in Fargate you cannot give a source code to deploy. But App Runner service, you can give a reference of your GitHub repository. It will take the code, it will deploy it, and it will run the application. Right? It will create internally, it will create an image for you. But that's not possible in Fargate. Second approach is if you already have a application image, then you can upload that image to ECR registry and then deploy it here. But one catch here is App Runner doesn't support Docker Hub repository. If you upload your images to Docker Hub repository, then you cannot provide that image here. You have to provide your application image into AWS ECR registry. Right, friends? So you can deploy your application either by GitHub repository or from ECR registry, but not from Docker Hub repository. Okay, friend? I hope this is clear and I have given more than enough information for App Runner service. Let's go back to tutorial. Now it's time for us to set up AWS App Runner service. So open the browser and search for AWS console login and click on AWS Management Console. It will take you to the login page of our AWS Management Console, right? If you don't have account, you can create a free account, and if you have account, then you can use it. You can log in back. Okay, I am logging in with my account, and you have to log in as a root so that you have all the privileges and permissions. So I'm logging in as a Code One Digest. That's my account, right? And once you log in, you will land on your home screen, right? So this home screen will show you what all recently used services, right? We have AWS App Runner Service, S3 Bucket, EC2, and ECS, right? All the services I have recently used. If you have not used, no worries, you can search here App Runner, right? So we have to go to AWS App Runner Service. Click on that, then you will be taken to App Runner homepage. So this is our App Runner homepage. Now what we have to do is we have to create an App Runner service. Click on this App Runner service. So now you select the source of your code. As we have the source code available in the GitHub repository, so we'll be saying the source code repository, right? So we'll be deploying from our source code repository, not from our container repository. So in the next video, I'll show you how to deploy it from a container repository. In this video, I am showing you how to deploy our code from source code repository. Select the source code repository here, and then provider is GitHub. Yes, this is the GitHub connection that I have already created and I'm using it. If you don't have a connection, it's very easy to create a connection so that you can use your GitHub repository here in AWS. If you are new, you can create a new, right? You can go and provide a detail, like it will ask you the credential so that it can create a connection. You have to provide the access. So once you do that, it will list the connection detail here and all the repository will come here. So if you see, all my repositories are available here. I have to select that repository, Spring Hello World API, right? And the branch is master, right? So this connection is already there for me, but you can create it in easy step. As soon as the connection is created, all the repository will be listed here for you. Select the appropriate repository and select the branch, and then come to deployment setting. So here we have start each deployment yourself using the app runner. Another option is to push the code as soon as it is available in the GitHub repository. So we are going to select manual. And now click on next button to go to the next page. Now on the next page you have few configuration build setting. Either you can provide that as a part of configuration file or you can give the commands here. I am going to provide the commands here, hence I have selected configure all setting here. So now select the runtime environment and select the Coret 8. Coret 8 is the open JDK provided by Amazon, right? So Coret 8 is compatible with Java 8. Select Coret 8 here. If it is Java based application, then you have to select the Coreto 8 or Coreto 11, right? So Coreto 8 is the compatible with OpenJDK 8, hence I am selecting Coreto 8. Now build command here is mvn clean install. Okay, we are giving maven clean install so that it can clean the project and it can build the project. Once that is done, then I will say Java Manager microservice demo 001 snapshot.jar. This is the jar name. So you can take this jar name from your local target folder. To know how this name is coming up, you can see your pom.xml. So in the pom.xml, whatever project name you would have given, right? The artifact ID, microservice demo, and this is a version and so on, right? This is the name of your project. The same is going and getting created the jar file name. Hence, I am giving the same name here inside the start command. Once this is done, and let the port be 8080 because we are running it on 8080. Say next, service name. I'll say Spring Hello World API. I'll say 1 CPU and 2 GB memory is enough. This is a default selection. There is no any environment variable. If you have, you can give that. Auto scaling. So if you see here, we have some auto scaling configuration. Concurrency means it can handle by default 100 requests together at any moment. But if there are more than 100 requests coming, then it will initialize another instance automatically. And it can go up to 25 instances like that, right? So simultaneously, you can handle up to 2500 requests at the same time. So let it be the default configuration. For health check monitoring, you can have this. For security, if you want to add any security, you can use this configuration. Networking is important here because I want to have a public endpoint for incoming traffic and for outgoing also public access. So I'll select the public unless until you want to access this endpoint within your AWS account within your VPC. In observability for your monitoring purpose, if you want to monitor it, and tagging is to tag this service so that you can search it if you have hundreds of service in AWS account. So this will be easier to search. You can add your custom tag. I'm not adding any tag as this is a demo project. And say next. So on next page, it is a review page where you can see all your settings and configuration and inputs, what you have given. So repository sources, GitHub. Repository name is Spring Hello World API. Connection is this, branch is this, deployment setting manual, and configure build is I'm selecting a runtime environment Coreto 8, port 8080, and configuration source API. And this is the command. This is a build command, mvn clean install, and this is my start command. This is the service name. This is my hardware configuration, initial hardware configuration, 1 CPU, 2 GB, and auto scaling is default, and rest all information, rest all settings is default. Let me go and hit the create and deploy button on right bottom corner and wait for some time. It will be deploying it. You can see the logs, what is happening in the console. So it is deploying, it is downloading the master branch of my repository. Keep refreshing it. It will take some time. Successfully validate the configuration file. Starting the build. Okay, it says successfully build the source code, provisioning instance and deploying the image publicly accessible service, performing health check on port 8080. Let's see that if everything is okay. Okay, friends. So one change that I did in a start command is I gave the Java manager slash app target. So all our code is inside slash app slash target and then the, the name of the jar file. So instead of giving Java manager microservices demo dot jar, I have to give the absolute path of that jar file to start the application. So now after making this change, I deployed the application and it says that application is successfully up and running, right? It is running. The application is successfully up and running. This I tried hitting this endpoint. So this is the endpoint of my application. If you see, it is giving me the hello world. It is running in App Runner now in AWS App Runner service, and the endpoint is running absolutely fine. That means we have successfully deployed our Java Spring Boot application into AWS App Runner service. Right, friends? Only thing that we missed is instead of using Java minus jar, the jar name, you have to give the complete path of the jar file. And jar file, the path name of the jar file is always start from app target. Okay, all your source code goes inside the slash app folder, and inside that you will have the target folder, and then you give the same jar file. It is the same jar file name, but we have to give the command like Java minus jar, and this is the absolute path, not just the jar file name. I hope this is clear. Okay friends, so now what we'll do is we'll do a cleanup. We'll stop all the services so that we release all the resources and it will not, AWS will not charge you on your credit card. Okay, let me do that. Go back to your AWS console, right? Click on services. So you will see this service is running. First, go inside that service. Okay, now we are in this service and click on action and say delete, right? So it will delete the service for you. It should delete in some time. Let's see, the operation is in progress, it says. Yep, so the service is deleted. So no more app runner service is running. You have to make sure that no service is running, right? So you don't have any service running. Okay, friends. Okay, friends. So here is a summary of this tutorial. Let me summarize what we learned in this tutorial today. I gave you introduction of AWS App Runner service. I shown you the architecture diagram. I explained you what are we trying to achieve in this tutorial through an architecture diagram, how we are writing the code, how we are uploading it into GitHub repository, and how we are deploying it into our App Runner service. Then I shown you my Spring Boot API project. Finally, I uploaded my project into GitHub repository, right? And then I also explained you how to set up AWS App Runner service, how to deploy our code into App Runner service, how to run a Spring Boot API project into App Runner service. And finally, we tested our Spring Boot endpoint into App Runner service. And at the end, I explained you how to stop our App Runner service and do a cleanup of all AWS resources. Right, friends? So if you like this video, so give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, so do subscribe to my channel to grow Code One Digest family. Friends, if you like this video, so give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for the more interesting videos. Click on the bell icon for the latest video notifications and do not forget to share this video with all your friends and colleagues. This is very useful information for students, beginners and software engineers. I am putting a lot of efforts in creating these contents. So please help me growing the Code One Digest family. Please subscribe to Code One Digest channel for the latest programming and technology related videos. Thank you.